Welcome to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.
Hi, everyone. You listen to the Sports Scouting Report with Lee Brecheen. We've got a really good show tonight. Some great guests. On this show, we've got a big-time coach from Pope John Paul High School in St. Tammany Parish. He's the O-line, D-line coach, Franklin Thomas. Franklin played several years in the Arena League as a tight end, played for Grambling, the late Eddie Robinson. And he also played for the New Orleans Saints a little bit, Detroit Lions, and he's been at Pope John Paul as the O-line, D-line coach now for 11 years. And his son, Jalen Thomas, is a D1 defensive end linebacker, 6'1", 235, cleans 300, benches 320, deadlifts 510. Superior athlete. We wanted to talk about that today. And also, we've got former basketball player for LSU, John Tudor, who was a part of Dale Brown's tenure there and was a starter from Pineville, Louisiana. And we've got a lot more on the show. But I want to go ahead and go into our interview with John Tudor. John, thanks for joining us.
Oh, well, thank you, Lee. Good to talk to you.
John Tudor was a part of a real, semi-famous class there with Johnny Jones and Leonard Mitchell, the great Leonard Mitchell from St. Martinville, Johnny Jones from DeRidder. And
Right.
it was a class of 5, John. And you told me about this off the air that 3 of the 5 made it. And
Correct.
2 were big-time players, and you were a starter, and you said it was like going against a Michael Jordan when you saw Leonard Mitchell when he arrived.
No doubt about it. We came in, and the 5 that came in, well, Brian Kistler, he was from Indianapolis, at Ben Davis High School, and then you had Matt England from Houston, Texas, and Johnny Jones from DeRidder. Of course, everybody knows Johnny, who's coached LSU, and Leonard Mitchell, who was from St. Martinville, and myself. And, I came to LSU, right off the bat, you're welcomed by Rudy Mack, a fifth-year senior, Greg Cook, fifth-year senior, Ethan Martin, probably one of the best point guards LSU's ever had, and Howard Carter, who was probably, if not the best off guard LSU's ever had. Welcome to Division I. and then we walk out into that kind of preseason, getting ready to start practice in October. And there's this guy who's walking up, and I look at him, and I'm like, well, he's probably a wide receiver on the football team, or he's probably a 400-meter champion in the SEC. He was freshman Leonard Mitchell, and I had never seen an athletic body so sculpted and perfectly put together, 6'6", 6'7". He had legs that looked like they were sculpted out of marble, a 28-inch waist, and he could run about a 4.140. He had about a 44-inch vertical jump. And I looked and I said, wow, welcome to the big time. But he was a phenomenal athletic specimen and phenomenal athlete.
And, John, you're coming in from Pineville going, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, you played against, tell everybody, you played against Joe Dumars at Natchitoches Central.
I did. That's right. Joe was a couple of years behind me. In my senior year at Pineville, we went 31-7, and we went to the state finals. Wassman beat us in the finals we were 3A. Before A was the highest classification at the time, so we were the next to highest classification, 3A. So we got beat by Wassman in the state finals. Went all the way to the finals. We lost 7 games that year. 4 of them were in Natchitoches Central, and a guy named Joe Dumars. And we played them. They weren't in our district there. Alexander Natchitoches is about 60 miles apart. But they would be involved in tournaments, and we actually had scheduled them home and away that year. And the first time we played them, they beat us by about 20. And the next time we played them, they beat us by about 14. The next time we played them, they beat us by 8. The next time we played them, they beat us by 3 or 4. So if I would have had one more shot at Joe Dumars, we might have got a win. But they represented 4 of our 7 losses in the spring of 1980 when I was at Pineville.
There's a lot of talent coming out in Louisiana during those times. Mike Sanders was a teammate of Johnny
Yes.
Jones. Mike went to
Yes.
UCLA.
Absolutely.
I mean, you had Dumars, Benoit Benjamin went to Creighton, was a 7-footer.
Right.
Yep. You know,
right.
you had Liddell Eccles that went on the UNO, and Carl Malone. Carl Malone went to Tech.
Louisiana is not shy on fantastic basketball players, and particularly in the early 70s to early 80s was really a hotbed of talent. You had Paul Thompson from Peabody, who played at Tulane and played for the Bucks for 4, 5, 6, 7 years. There was some talent here. Absolutely some talent.
Then the old days, you'd love this, John. The old days. Let's talk about some great old day players. Robert Parrish, Woodlawn of Shreveport, Boston Celtics. Elvin Hayes, Hall of Famer. Bob Pettit, Baton Rouge native. Bob Love.
Yeah.
Willis Reed from Hicko, Louisiana.
Absolutely.
People don't understand that. These newbies don't understand that.
No, they don't. It was there was in Alexandria, and I think it was in the had to be around 71 or 72. There was, the top 20 was located in Alexandria. It was 20 then, it wasn't 28, that sort of thing. And there was a matchup in the finals, and it was Robert Parrish and I'm trying to remember the other 7-footer's name. They were from 2A. Both of them were 2A school. And that Rapides Parish Coliseum that held a whopping probably about 7,000 people. It was packed, and I'm trying to remember who the other guy was, but I'll think of it before the end of our segment. Yeah.
Well, we're listening to John Tudor from Pineville, Louisiana, former LSU point guard, 2-guard, and depending on where Dale needed him, small forward, starter, and signed in 1981. What a great year to come into the Tiger program.
Right.
John, we're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We're going to come right back. We're going to talk about John's great-grandfather and his impact with Louisiana College, being from Kentucky. We'll be right back.
Hello, Sports Scouting Report fans. Like what you hear? Well, you're going to like our content at LAFootballMagazine.com. This week, check out our recruit spotlights on Ouachita Christian quarterback Hunter Herring, who has committed to the UL Raging Cajuns this past week, and Lake Charles College prep quarterback Dylan Simon, who has committed to the South Alabama Jaguars. Also, make sure to check out our podcast and pre-order your North or South Magazine edition for this upcoming season. All that and more on LAFootballMagazine.com.
Welcome back. You listen to the Sports Scouting Report with Lee Brecheen. We have John Tudor with us, former LSU basketball player and starter under Dale Brown. And 1981 comes in, and they're in the Final Four as a freshman and has to guard Leonard Mitchell in practice, and Sims and Cookie Man Cook and all these great players, Ethan Mart from Lehigh. We want to talk about your great-grandfather. John, you told me that he's from Kentucky, and in 1908, he was a big Kentucky Wildcat basketball fan.
Correct.
And when he went to Pineville to help start Louisiana College, he named Louisiana College the Wildcats based on the Kentucky Wildcats, right?
Absolutely. He was born and raised on a tobacco farm in Richmond County, Kentucky, and he grew up and enjoyed sports. So he went to Georgetown College, Georgetown, Kentucky, and played baseball. Every sport. You went then. You played every sport that was there: baseball, football, basketball, and. But he loved Kentucky. He loved the University of Kentucky. He loved the Bluegrass State. So when he was a Georgetown college, was a Baptist college, and family was historically Baptist, and so he was was playing at Georgetown College, and there was a man that said they were from Louisiana. Said, we've got a new college that we started, Louisiana College at Pineville, and we need somebody to kickstart our athletic program. Are you interested? Mm-hmm. So he decided to come down, and in 1910, actually, I think he got here in 1910, and he started the athletic program for Louisiana College, small Baptist college here in Pineville, Louisiana. And he was the athletic director, football coach, basketball coach, and baseball coach, and he was a player coach and all of that.
And water boy, probably.
There's water boy too. And one of his big things was that he loved the University of Kentucky Wildcats, and so he named the mascot, or he created the mascot, the Wildcats, because of his love for the Kentucky Wildcats. And he also chose one of the colors for the school. The colors of the school are orange and blue, and he chose blue as one of the colors as his fondness for Kentucky and their blue colors at Kentucky.
The Bluegrass State.
The Bluegrass State.
What a great story, man. And I'm glad you told me that. We talked the other day, and I want to throw out a couple of trivias here, and this will be fun for basketball people. But John, guess where Bill Russell was born? Just take a guess. The great Bill Russell from the Boston Celtics.
Wow, Bill Russell. I don't know. I don't even. This
is gonna blow you mind. Monroe, Louisiana.
Okay. How about that? All right.
Clyde Drexler was born in New Orleans.
Okay.
Antoine Jamison, who was an All-NBA player, was born in Shreveport.
Okay.
And Malik Newman, who's currently in the NBA, went to Mississippi State, was born in Shreveport. Just some tidbits for basketball fans.
There you go. You know, it is amazing. You have a lot of players that have played a major role, not only in and that's college ranks, but in the development of the NBA to where it is now, that are either from Louisiana or played at Louisiana high schools, and it's just a great thing. It really is an amazing thing.
John, I want to mention, we were talking about 1981. You got to be on one of the great teams at LSU. I remember that year, Kool and the Gang had the song Celebrate.
Right.
And I used to think that was the greatest song ever because it came out when y'all made the Final Four. And
it's interesting.
I was watching the games, and I was like, that was the song in our family's house. Like,
right.
Because that was the song the team, I think, or the media did.
And we did. In fact, I remember one of our practices where it was one of the practices that kind of opened up to a lot of the media and maybe some of the students that more was just kind of right before we left to go to Philadelphia for the Final Four, and it's kind of a shoot around, and that song played probably 10 times during that practice, but it was a loudspeaker, and it was a lot of fun. It was a great experience. It was a great time. It really was.
You brought up something off the air, and I remember the game like it was yesterday, watching it with my dad. But when y'all went up to UNC and played the great Dean Smith and Michael Jordan, Kenny Smith, the point guard, and you and Jerry Reynolds had the task of guarding Michael Jordan. You guard Michael in the first half and held him to hardly anything.
That's right. I was now, I'm not going to say I never held his jersey, and I didn't do the things that I learned after in 4 years of the SEC of how to be competitive when you are somewhat and sometimes greatly athleticized by your opponent. But I guarded him the first half, and he ended up with 6 points, and it was a great game. We were ahead at half. Mm-hmm. They were number one in the country, had not lost a game. They had Jordan, Kenny Smith, Sam Perkins,
Brad Daugherty maybe was young.
Brad Daugherty, and then Matt Daugherty, who ended up coaching at UNC for a while. Heck of a team, and it looked like they were going to be the first team since the 1976 Indiana team to go undefeated and win the national championship. Well, we went to play them on a Sunday afternoon, late February, NBC, game of the week, and we played them tough. We had them at halftime. It was close all the way through the game, and they had pulled ahead about 5 or 6 points. There was about 3.5 minutes to go in the game, maybe 4. And the play that seems to always come back to me one way or the other occurred. We were on our end of the court, and I was at the point. I threw the ball to my wingman, and as he threw it back to me, Kenny Smith stepped out, slapped it away, stole it, and it was a foot race between Kenny Smith and myself. And he went down and he went up, and I mean, for 6'1", I mean, it was like he was 14 feet in the air. But I was not going to allow him to dunk, and so I went up and just tried to catch his arm so he wouldn't. And so I came through him, through his arm. It caught him. He didn't dunk it and didn't make it. Well, he spun him, and when he landed, he reached down. He put his right arm down to break the fall, and he fractured his right wrist.
Which it hurt not having him to win it all, but hey, it happened, right? It happened.
It happened, and it was not an intentional or malicious foul. I went hard. I wasn't going to let him dunk. We were down 4-5. There was 4 minutes to go in the game. We were on the road, and as it turned out, it kept us. He stayed in the game, made one out of 2 free throws. Jordan came behind me, pushed me, and got a technical. And so we went down and made our free throws. So it basically went a break even. We got the ball after the technical, and they went on to beat us. But it was a play that, and I hate that he was hurt, absolutely. But it was just a hard play. And, we almost came out with a victory there. But unfortunately, he did fracture his wrist, and he played with a cast on. But they ended up getting beat by Indiana, and I think it was in the Sweet 16. And it ended their season. Jordan was a junior that year. He declared for the draft, and it kind of broke that whole team up.
Yeah.
But they had a heck of a team that year, and it just was one of those things. But unfortunately for me, I try to stay away from the state of North Carolina as there are still some.
Yeah, they remember.
They remember. Yeah, for it not happening, having the perfect season.
You're listening to John Tudor, former LSU basketball player from Pineville High School, Pineville, Louisiana. And I wanted to ask you, you talked about having to play against Charles Barkley. They called him to mound a rebound in college because he was over 300 pounds.
My goodness. And this guy, he comes in, and Lee, he was not. I'm 6'5", 6'5" and a little bit. So he and I were not, as far as height, that far apart. He may have been 6'6" to 6'7", maybe. But when I tell you he was a solid 300, but I'd never seen anybody before or since who could weigh 300 pounds and yet had the explosion and probably a vertical jump from dead flat, 2 feet planted on the ground, easy 36-inch vertical jump to 300 pounds. And that's what separated him from everybody else. So his body allowed him to create space, and his explosion and quickness allowed him to just, go over everybody's head. So he was a absolutely freak of nature from that standpoint, to weigh that much, to have that type of a nimbleness and explosion, and it was amazing.
I remember watching him steal a basketball, go court to court, and dunk, and just and not even go out of the game bending over, just 310 pounds, and then he goes to the NBA, and he gets down to about 270. Like you said, he was barely 6'5" and a half. Right. And he at 270, he was intimidated those guys 6'8", 6'9" in the NBA.
Absolutely. His legs were just tree trunks. They were just massive. You could not move him. I remember when I had to guard him some, and he posted up one time, and I just got underneath him, and I gave it everything I had. I don't think he even felt it. Who's behind me?
I remember, John. I remember watching you play. I mean, you were a pretty good shooter for LSU. I mean, you liked right off center. You would always make a bunch of shots there at the key, and they couldn't leave you open. I mean, when you were in sync, you were nailing them.
Well, I appreciate that, and I really wished we would have had a 3-point line at that time. That would have been beneficial to me, obviously, but they didn't come in with the 3-point line until it was 86, I believe, is when they came in. So a couple guys still there, Anthony Wilson Don Redden and those guys were a couple years after me, so I think they got to play with at least in the tournament. But I would have enjoyed that. That would have been good. I certainly would have liked the three-point line.
John, a lot of fans would like to hear your opinion of your former teammates. We talked about Leonard Mitchell and Johnny Jones, but Greg Cookie Man Cook and Ethan Martin, to me, were two of the greatest players at LSU, and Howard Carter. And they were all your teammates.
Yes.
What was it with Howard Carter and shooting that corner shot? That was just that was his thing. And then Cookie Man was, I think, one of the best big guys ever.
He really was. And let's start with Greg. Greg Cook, I love Greg. He was, he on the court, he was an intimidator. He looked like you look at him and go, I'm just going to stay away from that guy. He looked me, but off court, just the nicest guy in the world. Laughed, had a big laugh. He was a great guy. And so sad that we lost him, early in his life. But loved him. He was an intimidator. He just had that look, and he scared opposing centers when they came out for the jump. They just looked at him, and he was from New York, and he just kind of had that way about him. And there were guys literally just, you could see they were done when they walked out to center court for the jump ball. He was really a good passer. He was a good ball handler. He had a nice shot from 15 feet in, and he was a really, really fantastic college basketball player. Howard Carter, he was I think he was a first round pick. If not,
Denver Nuggets, yes.
Denver Nuggets. I tell you, one of the best basketball players ever come out of Louisiana. He could light it up. Same thing as far as the 3-point line. Half to 3/4 of his shots would have been behind the 3-point line, and it was effortless. But he also could go inside. He had the body, he had the size, so he could take you inside, outside, very much like a Dale Ellis who played, oh my goodness, forever in the NBA, from Tennessee. So Howard was phenomenal, really, really gifted shooter and an all-around player, very good all-around player. We had Rudy Macklin was on that team.
Rudy was incredible, shot blocker, rebounder.
Yes, he was a rebounding machine. You think about Rodman. They do these things on Rodman. Rudy could rebound better than anybody I've ever seen. It was just his anticipation where the ball was going to be, quick jumps. He was strong and left-handed, so it threw everybody off who was guarding. They couldn't figure out until the game was over before they figured out, I don't need to make it go to the left.
Right.
And Ethan Martin, he probably still, in my opinion, is the best point guard. No disrespect to anybody else who played point guard. It was just maybe where I was and how I saw him. He was so court savvy and quicker than you thought he was, and smarter than you thought he was, and better than you thought he was. He just got it done every game. He outplayed Isaiah Thomas in that Indiana game 10-1. Tell it, he really did. So I just loved Ethan. Great guy and a fantastic ball player.
And John, he was only 5'9", but played like he was 6'8". And I agree with you. Ethan was my favorite point guard growing up. Howard Carter was my favorite 3-point shooter. Leonard Mitchell, one of the great athletes that you played with, and then Cook was one of the best centers. And then you talking about Rudy Macklin, man.
Right.
That to me, I know they had Shaquille O'Neal and they had Stanley Roberts and they had all kind of players come through, but I think that was the best team ever at LSU.
I agree with you. I think I have great kudos for the '86 team that made it to the Final Four. A lot of those, all those guys I was with as I finished in &84.
John Williams, Ricky Blanton.
John Williams, Ricky Blanton, Nikita Wilson, Anthony Wilson, all those guys, Ollie Brown, they were there. So great respect, but, they were one of those teams like they really just gelled at the right time, put it together, and it was a great run. I think the team that we had in '81, top, start line to finish line, was the best team I've seen at LSU.
I've never seen chemistry like that.
Amazing. And you had you had the Jet, Willie Sims, coming off the bench, and he was amazing. Willie was a great ball player. He's put on a show against Kentucky when we played Kentucky at LSU in the spring of '81. I think it was January. We had a home away, and our first game was home with them. I mean, we blew them away, and Willie just had a game I'll never forget. He just was out of sight,
Jordy Holberg was off the bench.
Jordy had just graduated. He finished the year before. He was a grad assistant. He was a grad assistant. It was his first year, but he was a grad assistant. He had played, and they had made it to the Sweet 16 the year before I got there, and that's when Louisville beat him, and Louisville went on to win the national championship, and that was Jordy's senior year. But he was grad assistant and brought a lot of experience to the team, and it was definitely a bonus and a plus to have him, as an assistant coach.
John, wouldn't it have been something if Dwayne Scales would have came back for '81?
Oh my goodness, man, the astronaut. Yeah, I never really met him because I didn't know him, but they said athletic talent was off the charts, and he could he would have brought another dimension to the team that who knows, but that's the past, and he could fly. He really could fly.
John, you mind coming back one more small segment?
Not at all. Not at all.
I want to talk to you about Dale Brown and who recruited you back when you were in high school, and when we come back, talk about Will Wade, the team coming up. They missed the tournament. There was no tournament. Sure. Right. And then what you think of our guy John doing play-by-play now, John Brady. So we'll be right back. We'll listen to Sports Scouting Report with Lee Brecheen. We'll be back with more of John Tudor, former LSU basketball player. We'll be right back.
Be sure to check out part 2 of Lee's John Tudor interview on Friday.
Parents, are you looking for advice on getting your high school athlete recruited by the right college? Lee Brecheen is your answer. Lee has been doing it for over 30 years. He knows the ropes, and more importantly, he knows the people. Lee offers turnkey service from evaluation, creating highlight tapes in the correct format, and complete guidelines for effective communication with the schools. No matter the sport, girl or boy, no matter what grade your child is in, let Lee Brecheen help match your child to the right college fit. Go to our website, lafootballmagazine.com, and get connected today.
Hi, you're listening to the Sports Scouting Report with Lee Brecheen. I'm really happy to have, I think, one of the great long-term coaches, not just in high school football, as an assistant at Pope John Paul, Franklin Thomas Jr., but one of the long-term coaches in the Arena League. He played a little bit in the NFL. He coached a long time in the Arena League, played a few years. We'll let Coach talk about it, but he's currently the O-line and D-line coach for Pope John Paul High School on the North Shore. And his son, we're going to talk about Jalen Thomas, who I've seen play his sophomore year and last year. I saw him on film. And then Franklin Thomas, his dad called me out of the blue, and I said, let's get you on the podcast and promote your son because I know who your son is. And Franklin, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Franklin, your resume, man, would take about an hour and a half just to type, man. I mean, your background, you went to John McDonough High School.
Yeah.
That's no longer. Now you got McDonough 35, but John McDonough is no longer around. But I remember they had a lot of great players come out of there. You played there. You were in the Arena League with the Baton Rouge Blaze, the New Orleans Voodoo, the Shreveport Arena League, Ahoma, indoor football in Mississippi. I mean, Coach, where'd you not go in the Arena League?
Oh, well, it hadn't been many places that I haven't been. So it's really just been a blessing, and I got a chance to meet a lot of fun people and meet a lot of people that I made great relationships with. The only league that I hadn't played in was the CFL. So I think that was a little bit too far
Too cold
to travel for me. Too cold for me. That's right. I'm a Southern boy, and that's what I enjoyed a little more, So.
And I got to say this. Now, we got some Southern listeners, and they get upset when they hear the word Grambling. But you played at Grambling for the late Eddie Robinson.
Yes, I did. I definitely did. And for those Southern people, swag and swag football. We're all in it together until we play each other in the Bayou Classic. But I played under Coach Eddie Robinson. Was a great man. He taught us more than just football. He taught us how to be successful in society, and that's one of the things that I'm more grateful for than anything. And I always tell people about the story with Coach Eddie Robinson, how he used to come through the dormitory about 6 o'clock in the morning with a big old handbell, and he would wake everybody up, go to every room, wake everybody up to make sure that we got up and went to class. He would take our IDs. The purpose of that was so that, we walk all the way to the cafeteria to retrieve our IDs and we'll eat breakfast, get a fresh start in the morning. We won't just lay in bed and not go to class. So those are one of the things that he taught us, how to work hard and just be successful in society.
Coach, tell everybody the position you played at Grambling. I mean, you were there. You signed from John McDonough High School. But tell everybody your position. Yeah,
I played tight end at Grambling. I was at Grambling for 5 years. Got redshirted my first year, and then I played tight end there. And when I first got to Grambling, I actually was 8 on the depth chart.
Man.
And I worked my way up. By my freshman year when I finally was on the field, I was able to work my way up all the way to first string and wound up starting 3 years there. So.
And you were there from 1986 to 1991.
Yes.
Then you went to Detroit Lions and NFL draft, Detroit, and then you were in the Saints training camp in 94. And then your arena league took off in 96. And we're talking, Coach, you spent many years in the arena league as a coach and player.
Yes. Like you said, 1996, the Minnesota Fighting Pike, we played in the Target Center out there in Minnesota. So that's where they all begun, and had a great career there. Like I said, met a lot of friends, played a lot of football, and got paid pretty good to do it also. So it was definitely fun.
You're listening to Franklin Thomas, the O-line, D-line coach at Pope John Paul in the North Shore High School. Coach, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about your son, Jalen Thomas, one of the top, I think, hidden gems as a linebacker. I think he's a linebacker in college. I know he plays DN for your team, and you coach OD-line, but we're going to take a break. Coach, hold on. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Sports Scouting Report with Lee Brecheen.
Hello, Sports Scouting Report fans. Like what you hear? Well, you're going to like our content at LAFootballMagazine.com. This week, check out our recruit spotlights on Ouachita Christian quarterback Hunter Herring, who has committed to the UL Raging Cajuns this past week, and Lake Charles College prep quarterback Dylan Simon, who has committed to the South Alabama Jaguars. Also, make sure to check out our podcast and pre-order your North or South Magazine edition for this upcoming season. All that and more on LAFootballMagazine.com.
Welcome back, everyone. Hope you're enjoying the show. We got our guest, Franklin Thomas, the O-line, D-line coach for Pope John Paul High School, and he's been at Pope John Paul for a long time. We're talking, Coach, tell him how many years. I mean, it goes by quick.
Been there 9 years. Yeah, it went by real fast, real quick. Started there in 2011.
Man.
And now all of a sudden it's 2020, so it's 2020. So been there for 9 years, enjoyed it. It went by real fast, but I've been enjoying myself.
Coach, you're at a small school, in 1A and 2A, you got the same linemen. I mean, most 2A and 1A schools, unless it's Oak Grove or something, or Southern Lab, I mean, you have the same OD line. So you're coaching both sides of the ball, but you don't have 15, 20 new guys. You got the same, 5 to 7, 8 kids to coach for each side of the ball.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, definitely. And maybe that's why I've been there so long, because it reminds you of arena football. In arena football, you only have so many on the roster, so many offensive, defensive linemen. They all go both ways. So it's kind of familiar territory for me, being there. Like you say, we only have maybe 8 linemen total. And if you get to 10, you're kind of pushing it there. And so those guys have to go both ways. So by me playing arena football, it helps a lot because I was able to go both ways, and I know how to coach these guys to go both ways. So.
Coach Thomas, you made me feel good the other day when you called me on my cell phone. You said, Lee, it's Coach Thomas. And when you said Franklin Thomas, it's at St. Aug, you said, no, that's my family. And I said, yeah, I know them too. They were in my magazine. And then I said, I remember you, but everybody was Franklin. I said, oh, man, this is a bit. And he said, yeah, my son's Jalen Thomas. I said, yeah, I know who he is. And you said, I want to get him on the show because I guess you heard the strongest kids in the state because your son's one of them.
Yes, definitely.
And you called and told me, and I said, man, let's do it.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, he's one of the strongest kids in the state. He also power lifts, so this past season he finished ranked number 1 in 2A in the weight class 242. Last year he finished runner-up, so he's worked pretty hard in the weight room, on the field also. And, when I called you asked about my brother, and his name is Franklin Thomas too. It's like George Foreman, you have so many George Foremans in the house. When somebody say we go together and we go out, and somebody will say, hey, Frank, we turn around. You got 3-4 people turning around.
Well, you got
like George Foreman.
Well, you got Ken Griffey Jr. and Ken Griffey Sr. That's another one, right?
That's right. That's right.
So let me brag on your son a little bit. Squat, his max is 520. That's good for a guy 235. Bench press 315. These are the ones you gave me. Deadlift 525. Power clean 275. I mean, we didn't have all these the other day, and I'm glad that you called me because he is one of the top strong kids in the state with every category. Coach, what is it like coaching your son and knowing when to, back off or push him too much? Because, usually my dad was a coach, and it's easy to be harder on your son and even some of the other kids because you know what they can or can't do. And you're always pushing, but what is it like to coach your son? And when do you know to look, man, I gotta control my emotions here?
Well, it's a lot of controlling your emotions, like you said, the last thing you say. But the thing that I try to go by is just to let the coaches coach him. When I can coach him, I do. And usually that comes at home if he asks me questions. If he asks me questions, then what I'll do is I'll give him the answer to those questions or what I think it is. But other than that, when we on the field, when we have practice, if you ask any coaches, I don't interfere with it. I just let the coaches coach, and I kind of stand back and I treat them like any other player that's on the team. Yeah. I don't treat him special than anybody else, and I make sure that what everybody else is doing, he's doing that also. So the main thing I just found out is that I just step back and I just let the coaches coach him, and and I coach him like anybody else on the team. When we on the field together, practice field or on the game field, he's a player. I'm coach. I'm not dad. And he's a player. So I've learned that helps out our relationship a lot, and it does well. We've been going by that the last 3 years, and it's done great for us.
You listen to Franklin Thomas Jr., the O-line, D-line coach for Pope John Paul for the last 11 years, high school in St. Tammany Parish. We're going to take one more break, and when we come back, Franklin, I want to talk about your son from what I saw. Me and you haven't even talked about this, but I'm going to go by what I saw when he was a sophomore, and then I saw one game last year, and I'm going to talk about the strengths, and I know you know him. He's your son, but I'm going to brag on him a little bit from what I saw as just an outside family member. We're going to go take a break. You're listening to Sports Scouting Report with Lee Brecheen. We'll be right back.
Parents, are you looking for advice on getting your high school athlete recruited by the right college? Lee Brecheen is your answer. Lee has been doing it for over 30 years. He knows the ropes, and more importantly, he knows the people. Lee offers turnkey service from evaluation, creating highlight tapes in the correct format, and complete guidelines for effective communication with the schools. No matter the sport, girl or boy, no matter what grade your child is in, let Lee Brecheen help match your child to the right college fit. Go to our website, lafootballmagazine.com, and get connected today.
Welcome back. You're listening to Sports Scouting Report. Lee Brecheen. We have Franklin Thomas Jr., the O-line, D-line coach from Pope John Paul High School. Played many years in the Arena League and played in the NFL and was a coach in the Arena League. Now he's coaching at Pope John Paul High School. Coach, I want to talk about your son, Jalen Thomas. He's a senior for 2021. And a lot of people that aren't involved in high school football don't understand this. There's some people that are new. You know because you're a coach. But when you play for a small team, you play where the team needs you. And Jalen, your son, plays at DN. And he does a great job, but I think he's a Mike linebacker in college, and that's a compliment because he can't play linebacker because y'all need him on the line, right? I mean, y'all need him there.
That's correct. That's correct. When you're dealing with 2A football, like we talked about earlier, it's a little bit like arena football. You have to play more than one position. You have to play where you need it, and he's done a good job at humbling himself to play where we need him. And you're right, at the next level, he'll probably play somewhere outside linebacker, Mike linebacker. But he's done a great job at just adapting to his team and doing whatever they ask him to do.
I'm going to share my scouting report, which I'm not supposed to do this, that I give to colleges. I put aggressive, good speed, played fullback linebacker early on, showed toughness blocking people into the dirt as a fullback, even though that's not where he's being recruited. Where's number 10, the jersey number 10? He can really run. What you think of that?
I think that's accurate. That's pretty accurate. That's I don't like bragging on my son. I never did. That's one of the things that keep us with a good relationship. But if I was somebody looking outside and would have to say those things, that's basically what I'll say.
235, 6'1", and some change. Looks 6'2" in pads. Can run. To me, I think linebacker switch is going to be pretty good, huh, Coach? I mean, what do you think of college coaches? You played college ball. And some college coaches can see the upside without seeing the reps. Like I can. I've been doing it since I was 19, watching high school ball and with my dad evaluating.
Right.
But some coaches can't see that. They don't see that, hey, he's a DN, but realize and visualize that he's really a linebacker.
Right. I mean, it's like you say, scouting is a tough thing. It takes somebody that's been doing it for a while to actually be able to be accurate with, what they see on the field with these different players that's coming out. Especially nowadays, you have so many hybrid linebackers, so many hybrid players, versatile players. You have to actually have a keen eye for it. And so I mean, it's like you see LSU, they switch guys every year, from one position to another. You saw Devin White, he came in as a running back. He left there as a linebacker. Mm-hmm. So, first round linebacker. So, you've been doing it a long time and you're pretty much accurate, So, but you have to have a keen eye. You have to actually see these guys and know where they fit in the system.
Hey, Coach, I was telling somebody about 3 years ago, I was watching Jacoby Stevens for LSU when he came in as a freshman from Tennessee. Yes. And I was watching him return kicks and punts. Well, he was Mr. Football in Tennessee, and he was 6'2", about 210. And they said, he's going to be corner. I said, that kid's not going to be a corner. I said, he's a hamburger away from a linebacker. And they went, what do you mean? I said, you're looking at it by what's written and printed. I said, watch the film and see how he moves. And the good thing is he reads and reacts. So if he gains the weight, he can move closer to the line. And I said when he gets that weight on, he'll be closer to the line and he can blitz. He'll be a big linebacker and blitz. And he's a jack of all trades. He's become that. He's a 230-pound kid now at 6'2", running 4.5 in the 40. And he plays safety, outside backer, and buck linebacker. And he comes up on the line like your son does.
Yes. He's a pretty good player. I had a chance to see him play last year against Arkansas, and I thought pound for pound, he was probably one of the strongest players on the field. I saw him blitz and hit the quarterback for Arkansas and knocked him off his feet, and so, yeah, he's definitely, I think pound for pound, he's probably the strongest player on the LSU team. So
it depends on where your son goes. You know that. Like if he goes to Louisiana Tech or if he goes to Grambling, if he goes to an LSU or he goes to an Auburn, depending on where you go, that's where they're going to put where they still kind of need you. And actually, the smaller D1 schools still might play him as a buck linebacker, like a Tech or a ULM. They could still do that because they don't have the giants at some of those schools. And
definitely, yeah. definitely.
Coach, what does Jalen need to work on if you were being non-biased? I mean, you're the dad, but what do you think he needs to work on right now where he's at?
I think he has to use his hands a little bit more. I think, at times, I think when he's blitzing, sometimes when he's rushing the quarterback, he gets stuck. The move comes too late. So I think if there's one thing that I say he would have to work on is pretty much getting off the block a little bit more, a little bit faster, using his hands a little bit better. Because as well as I do, Lee, at the next level, those guys, once they put their hand on you, those offensive line, that's it. So you got to be able to move hands. You got to be able to get their hands off you. You got to be able to get your hands inside of them faster. So if there's anything, and that's what we've been working on, he has to have better hand movement.
I tell kids all the time, I said, look, every starting offensive tackle in the Power 5 is about 6'5" to 6'7", 340 to 360, and they can run five flats.
That's right.
And there's not much fat. These guys have feet, and they have strong hands and arms. So, like you said, one move, you're in the ground.
You're in the ground. That's correct. That's correct.
Jalen, my opinion, your son has football speed. And for the listeners, coaches understand that. You understand that. Meaning, I don't care what your 40 time is. You can get to point A to point B because you can instinctively get there, and you have the speed to get there. And I think he's got football speed, whether he's a 4.7, 4.69, or 4.8. I just wanted you to know that too. And
thank you. Yeah.
Because people put too much of an emphasis on 40 times with DNs and linebackers.
It's true. Everything is predicated on a 40-yard dash nowadays. It's the stop clock. And, I think it's a little bit overrated. You see kids right now, they might run, like you say, a 4.7, 4.8. But when you get them on the field, man, they just running everybody down. Jerry Rice is a good example of that coming out. I think Mississippi Valley, I think he ran like a 4.6 maybe, something like that. But you saw every time Jerry Rice caught that ball and turned upfield, no one could catch him. So it is a thing such as field speed, game speed, and then you also have the the stop clock. So
I remember Emmitt Smith saying in an interview from the Cowboys when he came out of Florida and he played at Pensacola, Escambia High School, he said, I'm only 5'9". They list me at 5'10". I'm 220, and I've never run a 4.5, but I'll run a 4.6 100 yards.
That's correct. Yeah, that's right. Emmitt Smith was good at that too. I mean, coming out, everybody said that he was too small, he was too slow. They thought that Florida had made a mistake by giving him a scholarship, and I guess 20 years later, he proved everybody wrong, huh?
Yeah, him and Dalton Hilliard and all those short back, Barry Sanders, all those short guys. But
that's correct.
Coach, any last thoughts about Pope John Paul? How's the team doing? And I know everybody got back, and is everybody doing good right now? Pope John Paul's coming back?
Everybody's doing good. We senior heavy this year. We just started workouts this past week. Everybody's doing fine. The guys seem to be in good shape. We can't really get into the weight room right now because of the numbers. Our weight room is a little bit smaller, and you're supposed to have only if it's 1,000 square feet, it's supposed to only have 25 players or something like that in there, or maybe less than that. So we've been doing everything on the field. We've been doing a lot of body weight exercises, a lot of running and stuff like that. So right now it looks like the guys are in shape. They're ready to go. The self-quarantine, quarantining inside a lot. These guys are ready to go. And then for these guys that play baseball, they missed the season and now they're playing football. They kind of see what they missed. So you kind of can tell that the guys are happy to be out there, and they know that this opportunity doesn't come, it doesn't come often, So look like they're taking advantage of it. It's just a different attitude coming out of the quarantine and dealing with everything that's going on right now.
Well, Franklin Thomas, Jr., I appreciate you being on. I'm glad that we could promote your son and your school and talk about your background, because we don't ever want to forget, because the coaches that played the game in the 80s and 70s and 90s, those are the ones you need to teach the kids that are coming up now. You need the people like yourself to be involved and be at the high school level. If it wasn't for coaches like you being at a school 11 years at a 2A school, no telling what would be, with these kids. They need the help, right? And it's really good that you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. I always say that you have to have patience, and that's one of the things that the coaches had with us, like you say, back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And I always tell people, if you lose patience with the kids, then you lose the development of the kids. So you have to have the patience. in order to develop the kids.
Well, Franklin Thomas, thank you. And look, have a great season. We'll talk to you soon. Your son's going to be in the preview magazine that comes out late August, and he'll be on one of the All-Louisiana teams. We can't tell you which one, but he'll be on one of them, and we'll talk to you soon. Franklin, have a great day, man. Thank you for being a part of the show.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure, Lee.
Thanks for listening to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen. Be sure to check out part 2 of Lee's John Tudor interview on Friday. Don't forget to subscribe to wherever you listen to our podcast, and also make sure to download our episodes to support our show. Also, Louisiana Football Magazine fans, we have some great news for you. Both our 2020 North and South preview editions are available to pre-order on our website. Just go to lafootballmagazine.com and click at the top where it says Buy Magazine, and you are there. Both magazines cover all the high schools and colleges in the state, but there will be a 16-page difference that will focus on North Louisiana as well as South Louisiana. Both our issues are expected to ship in late August, early September due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We also added a new wrinkle that will now have the magazine digital this year as well. When you pre-order a digital copy, the magazine will be emailed to you when they are available. Finally, we hope you enjoy the podcast, and we will see you on Friday.
Thanks for listening to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.